All right, let's jump right in. You've seen those charts, right? The ones with the human body just covered in all these tiny little dots, a supposed roadmap to your health. But here's the big question, the puzzle we're really going to dig into today. What if those acupuncture points aren't really points at all? We're going to peel back the layers on that classic image and find something way more dynamic, way more fascinating, just waiting underneath. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll tackle the myth of the point. Then we'll look at the cracks that start to show up in that ancient map. After that, we'll uncover this hidden grid inside the body, decode it with a little help from modern science, and you'll see we'll end up with a totally new point of view.
All right, let's start with that classic traditional view. When you look at the ancient medical texts, they describe these acupuncture points with just an incredible, almost poetic level of precision.
I mean, just look at the detail here. This isn't just saying, hey, use this point for back pain. No, it's for a very specific kind of back pain in an exact location. And it even comes with a warning. Don't do certain things in the spring. It's this level of detail that really gives us that idea of the magic dot, right? But this is where that beautiful classical map starts to get a little complicated, especially when we start looking at modern practice and scientific research. So the very first crack in this old map, it shows up right in the clinic. You know that super complex, beautiful precision we just talked about? Well, it turns out that in real-world, day-to-day practice, the approach is actually, well, it's a lot more flexible. And then you have the scientific challenge. This is a big one. A major review back in 2009 came out with a really surprising result. It found that needling the so-called correct points was often no more effective than needling sham points or even just random spots. So think about that for a second. If a needle in the wrong place works just as well, what does that tell us about our magic dot theory? Yeah, this finding basically leaves us with this massive question hanging in the air. If the exact location isn't the be-all and end-all we thought it was, then we've got to totally rethink how acupuncture might be working. We have to start looking for a completely different explanation. Which brings us to the big reveal. The answer, it turns out, isn't a point at all. It's a completely different way of looking at the body. And the whole paradigm shift is right here. We've got to stop thinking of an acupoint as some static, fixed location like a pin on a map. Instead, I want you to picture it as a dynamic, responsive area. An area that can actually emerge and then disappear depending on what's going on in the body. It's kind of less like a city on a map and more like a traffic jam. It only really exists when specific conditions are met. So you can see how our thinking is evolving here, right? We start with a single, isolated point. Then we see it as part of a line, a meridian. Then we realize it's more of a responsive area. And that leads us to the final step, seeing the body as this entire interconnected network, a grid. What's wild is that the ancient texts actually hinted at this whole network idea with this really powerful metaphor. So we all know about the vertical lines, the Jang meridians, but they also talked about horizontal way lines, these connectors. When you put them together, it's like they were seeing the body as a globe with its own longitude and latitude. And when you hear about these ancient concepts, things like chi streets that act like major energy highways, or the one-of-a-kind belt meridian that literally wraps around your waist, it all points to the same conclusion. These ancient thinkers were already seeing the body as a fully interconnected 3D grid, not just a bunch of separate lines. And honestly, what's so amazing is how this ancient grid idea lines up with cutting-edge modern science. The parallels, they're just stunning. Okay, this is like a Rosetta Stone. It's translating these ancient, almost poetic descriptions into the language of modern physiology. So you have the vertical meridians, the Jing lines. Well, those map almost perfectly to what we now call fascial chains and nerve pathways. Those horizontal way connections, they mirror our spinal nerve segments. And get this, the Sea of Marrow, which is such a great name for the brain and spine, it corresponds directly to our central nervous system networks. It is an absolutely incredible convergence of ancient wisdom and modern anatomy. And you know what demonstrates this idea of a responsive area perfectly? The Ashi point. It's not on any chart. It's a living, tender spot that your own body reveals. Its name literally means, ah, yes. You know that sound you make when someone finds the exact sore spot? The whole idea is just where it hurts, that's the point. It's basically the original trigger point, a concept modern medicine is very familiar with now. It's the body itself saying, yep, right there. So after this whole journey, from a simple dot to a complex network, what's the big takeaway?
Well, it actually leads us to a pretty beautiful paradox.
This quote really captures the essence of everything we've talked about. The whole body is an acupoint. The whole body has no acupoints. Think about it. Any part of your body can become a responsive, sensitive point when there's an issue. So in that sense, your whole body is one big acupoint. But at the very same time, no single point exists as a fixed, separate thing. So your whole body has no acupoints. It's both at the same time. So here's the bottom line, the real takeaway. An acupoint isn't an object you find. It's a relationship you create. It's an event, really, a moment of connection between the body, the illness, and the treatment that reveals exactly where healing needs to begin. And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on. If our bodies are these living, responsive networks, what other hidden connections are we just now beginning to understand? You know, this whole shift in thinking, from fixed points to a dynamic network, it's probably not just about acupuncture. It might just be the very beginning of a whole new way of understanding the true, incredible complexity of our own bodies.